When you meet a woman and there's some kind of spark, it can often be excitement that becomes your greatest enemy. Much like a young child who's gotten a new present, it's often natural for men to dive in head first when they like a woman and she likes them back. But this is the opposite of what you've originally done to win her over, and it can be a massive turnoff. In fact, we often see many men lose attractiveness to a woman the moment he admits to her that he likes her. You see, a man's behavior should always be somewhat nonchalant, and even when you have her in the palm of your hand, with excitement boiling up, it's never something she should come to know. This video will focus on 8 of the biggest mistakes most men make, which stems from telling a woman things about you she shouldn't know. This is all driven by society telling men to be more open with their feelings. So, let's explore why your feelings are irrelevant. Your feelings don't matter to women. Life is cruel, and when we fall in love with someone, there is a tendency for butterflies to pop up. In fact, you would often feel compelled by this feeling to share it with the rest of the world. But to women, your feelings do not matter. As Chris Rock once said, the only people to be loved unconditionally are women, children, and dogs. The rest of the men are loved solely on the basis that they provide something. This is true every single day, and whilst you might have feelings as well, they rarely matter. And a woman simply wants to see that you are the rock you have been portraying yourself to be from the onset. A woman always wants to know that her partner is ready to suffer through life and carry his family on his back. However, when you share your feelings, you become somewhat like a woman, which naturally means that you are shedding off some feminine energy. Even though every woman will tell you she might like this, she's merely just curious, and often she susses out a couple of weaknesses. These weaknesses will be used against you in the future, and a woman has absolutely no issue in doing this to any man she meets. As a man, you should have a great group of male friends in whom you can confide. This will naturally ensure that you have a lot more masculine energy around you. You'll also find that your male friends often don't care when your problems are really small. A little bit of tough love is often a great way for men to ensure they become stronger individuals and manage to endure whatever it is life's throwing their way. So, to get started, you have to realize that your feelings don't really matter to women, and they'll only tolerate this based on the condition that you can provide. But what should you never reveal to a woman? Let's find out. A woman should always say, "I love you," first. One of the biggest debates in relationships is often who should bear the responsibility of admitting love first. Well, it's natural for women to be the first person to utter this. What you might not know is by saying these words, the power of the relationship immediately shifts to the person who has not said it yet. The other person will naturally wait in anticipation for what you're going to say if you've been the first one to do so. For a woman, it should seem like she's just another accessory in your life, which helps you to pursue your purpose. This doesn't mean you should treat her like you don't care, and you should continue to show your love. You see, actions generally speak far louder than words, and whilst she's speaking, you are the one out there doing. However, later down the line in the relationship, the occasional words of affirmation could be quite helpful in ensuring that the relationship moves forward at a steady pace. As a man, you should be so great at making a woman like you that she should be the one telling you she loves you first. If she's too prideful to say this, which is the case in many modern relationships, you have to understand that she's not yet in her best feminine frame. In fact, you're bound to have a hard time with a lot of turmoil if you cannot keep a woman in her natural feminine frame. You always want to make sure that you have a woman firmly in a feminine frame, which should help you have a far happier relationship. Number 2, she doesn't need to know how you feel. Let's get something out of the way first. When we and other influencers tell you that a woman should not know how she makes you feel, we're not talking about habits that are frustrating you. In fact, the contrary is true. And if you do not speak up when a woman's not behaving correctly, she will continue to do so. Eventually, it might become unbearable. So, whenever a woman does something to tick you off, or she's blatantly irritating you, you have the full right to voice your opinion, and this will naturally serve you much better as well. However, those sussy happy feelings are not something she needs to know about. You might be able to mention them occasionally, but do not validate every single thing she does or every feeling she unlocks with you. When you do this, she'll know exactly how she can constantly please you, which eventually becomes a distraction. You see, women are built to distract a man from his purpose as much as possible. So, despite your innate desire to give her everything when she gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling, it's something you need to constantly fight. Finally, this also relates to the mystery part of dating. Women naturally gravitate toward men who show themselves as being somewhat of an enigma. She'll notice the mystery within you and focus heavily on trying to combat this by closing the information gap that has arisen between the two of you. In most cases, you'll find that women try harder and harder as a way of making sure that they try to impress you. This is actually what makes many relationships fun and keeps both people from settling. Whilst it might seem cozy to spend each night eating popcorn and watching romantic comedies, it is not attractive to women. Number 3, never tell her how great the date was. One of the biggest mistakes many men make actually happens right after the first date. If a guy happens to like a woman, he might continually tell her how great the date's been, and this can be somewhat annoying to a woman. You need to understand this from the perspective of a woman. If you've been on a date where you're the one chasing her and even paying for everything, you should never reveal to her how great the date's been. The reason's because you're the one putting in the effort, whilst she's just merely pitched up. This shows a woman that she doesn't need to put in any real effort, and you simply just enjoy her company. It completely removes the need for her to put in some of the extra work needed to drive the relationship forward. You should keep it casual, and this will have the opposite effect. Instead of knowing that merely her presence is enough, she'll now begin to wonder whether she's made a good impression. This will also reveal how she feels about you. Women will naturally instigate the second date and try even harder. You see, a relationship should be like a man. It should be constantly driven by both parties willing to work hard together and further themselves in life. Once you keep a relationship as something you are working on, both parties will naturally be happier. However, many women are willing to take the initiative and pursue you through their dating initiatives. This is something you can use and thank a woman afterward. It's called basic manners. However, you don't need to make a big deal of it. Number 4, she should never know how she affects your life. Another major issue that's often coming up is when men reveal to women how they affect their lives. You see, a man might wake up and see a message on his phone. If the messages make him smile, he might bring up how great this makes him feel every morning. However, a woman's brain automatically thinks that if she's to skip a day or stop completely, you'll not feel that great anymore, and this gives her the power. One of the last things you should ever do is to allow a woman to know the impact she has on your life with anything. You want her to think that you're used to these kinds of things, which makes you stand out even more and directly shows that you can carry a lot of self-respect inside. You need to show that you are in high demand from others. Women always love to have rare things, and if you become a rare commodity, you're more than likely going to get some better value from her, and she'll also continue doing the things you like. Number 5, she doesn't need to tell you about her ex. One of the most common topics of conversation that often comes up is when a man asks a woman about her ex. You see, this conversation will need to happen eventually, but you should not be the one driving it forward. In fact, women should drive these conversations forward. If a woman happens to mention her ex and talk about him, you can listen attentively. However, you still need to brush it off as it being nothing. What she's actually doing is gauging you and comparing you in her mind. She's also trying to suss out whether or not you feel threatened by this person. Additionally, a woman doesn't need to know about your ex unless she asks for it. In fact, you don't even need to talk about your or her history unless she's the one instigating the conversation. The risk of jealousy and some insecurity is often too high, and this could significantly impact the power dynamics of the relationship. Number 6, feelings should only be shared when trust is fully established. The big question of what you feel about things and what bothers you in life is bound to eventually pop up. However, this is another kettle of fish that could easily backfire and make you seem somewhat weak. You want to avoid this at all costs. You see, women love seeking weaknesses within men. The more she can establish some kind of weakness, the better she can use it against you. As we've already mentioned, every man should have a band of brothers he can naturally confide in, and this will make him far more powerful in the eyes of a woman. The moment you begin to share your feelings, she sees you as the kind of man who's threatened by the troubles that life can naturally conjure up. You want to have her believe that you are durable and resilient, and that regardless of what happens in life, you can overcome it. Women are naturally attracted to strength, and the more strength you can show, the better you'll be to those around you. By showing any form of natural weakness, you can be sure that she'll leech onto it and she'll continue to see if she can make you weak. In fact, the initial stages of a relationship with women are vastly different from that of men. When a man tries to seek a reason to make sure she's the perfect one, women think differently. A woman's trying to find more reasons why she should not date you. Displaying high levels of emotional weakness will destroy you. Number 7, she doesn't need to know what you cannot do. One of the most important things when it comes to dating is to make sure that you're competent. In fact, competence dates back to the Stone Age. Women used to seek the most competent person, and this person would naturally also be the person who has the most resources. One of the biggest mistakes that many men make is they tell women what they cannot do and what they fear. You should always have a woman believe that you can do everything, and when something pops up that you can't do, simply give it a shot. If you can't do it, then you can admit that you're struggling. However, revealing all your weaknesses up front is one of the main things that she'll forever use against you. Secondly, fears or phobias are another feminine trait. You see, men should be fearless, and they're often portrayed as being naturally fearless. If you have a fear of, let's say, spiders, you need to find a way to fix this, and she doesn't need to know about it. Number 8, she doesn't need to know you've been cheated on. Whether you've been cheated on or are the one doing the cheating, this is a conversation that should never come up. Too many men are out there telling the world how bad women are once they've been cheated on, but everyone just sees them as weak, since there's always a reason that is rooted in weakness. When a man comes up to all his responsibilities and he does what he says he can do, no woman will ever cheat on him. In fact, women will only cheat because they notice another guy can give her more value than her partner. If you reveal to a woman that you've been cheated on, she'll ask you why. Your reason will often make you sound extremely weak. If you get cheated on frequently, you're not doing enough to keep a woman, and this will continue to happen unless you start doing something differently. Women are expert investigators, and they're absolutely brilliant at finding reasons not to date you. If you don't tell them these 8 things, you're making it increasingly harder for her to find such reasons. Meanwhile, you can pull off a masterstroke by establishing sexual tension. Make sure to check out this video next to find out how.